Hi guys, Twitch here from Creep Designs. I don't think I've actually mentioned it before, but for those who don't know or anyone who's actually interested at all, I'm actually in Ipswich, Queensland, Australia. Today I'm doing a makeover. So some of you will remember this piece from a previous video. Absolutely stunning piece. I love it. It's one of my favorite pieces, but it's been sitting in my workshop for several months and just won't sell. When I first started designing this piece, someone did say to me that it wouldn't sell, but I don't do this just to make quick sales. I'm not a factory. If I wanted to be a factory, I'd go back to doing factory work. I do this because I love it. It is my passion. It is good for my soul and my brain. Not so good for my body since I have, I'm having trouble with my lower back today. It is seized up, so I'm going to try and do as much of this sitting down as I can. So you got to do things that kind of you get joy out of. It can't all just be about what's going to make you money. So I've been staring at this piece for ages and it's been doing my head in, but I know exactly what I want to do with it now. It's getting a full makeover. All right. Let's do it. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do, as I always do, is remove anything that's not being kept. So I am removing the hardware. As much as I love this hardware, it's not part of the look that I'm going for with it, and the droppy bit around the keyhole, I can't remember what it's called. The keyhole piece is actually, close to breaking. Same as my mental state. So when I'm taking this part off, if you want to pry something off, literally anything without damaging the piece you're prying it from, stick a palette knife or a paint scraper or something behind it and use your screwdriver or another palette knife to pry it up. That way you're prying against a palette knife or scraper instead of the piece of furniture. So the next thing I'm going to do is sand back the top again using the PrepMate 2 Orbital sander from Millie. When I said I'm going full makeover, I meant full makeover. I'm going to be going with a dark top this time, whereas the previous finish that I put on it was more of a coastal driftwood colour. I can't actually remember exactly what stain I used on it. I think I made a mix. But yeah, sanding it back with 80 grit and then I'll go in with 120. Alright, so I've got these holes. There's only one hole either end of this from where there was a mirror attached. So the screws would go in from underneath into the mirror. I'm going to do this without the mirror. I can do that up as a separate thing. They don't seem to sell as well with the mirror on these dressers. So I'm just going to cut that loose and do something separate with it. So I was going to fill these with dowel plugs, but I don't have any and I'm not making a trip to Bunnings just to get dowel plugs. So I'm going to fill these with putty. And then because I'm doing a dark stain on these, I'm just going to use, when I do it, I'm going to use some dark paint to match it and kind of make it look like it's part of the grain. You'll see what I mean as I do it, but for now I'm going to tape up the sides of this. So I'm taping the sides of this so that when I put the putty on, the putty's going to go into the grain of the wood a bit as well. So when I smooth sand it back, there'll be a little bit of putty that stays in the grain. So I want it to be in the kind of strip that goes with the grain, the pattern in the grain, if that makes sense, as opposed to it just being a big blob that's right there. So I'm using Timbermate Woodfella. I'm using just pine colour. So before I go trying to get this level, first thing I'm going to do is push some of it in there. So I'm literally pressing it down into the hole. So once I've got some of the putty in there, I'm then going to put it on top in that whole thing. So now I'm pressing it down into the grain along that path, and then on that spot there I'm going to put the putty on proud of the hole. So that keeps dragging out of it, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my misting bottle and spray just a little bit on that. That was not a little bit. So because I'm changing the hardware on this piece, I'm also filling all of these random holes that were behind the other handles. If my new handles were covering it, I wouldn't bother, but because they are not going to cover it all, I'm just going to fill it. So now everything's dry. I also did fill a couple of hairline cracks just to make them less obvious. And just sanding it back with, I think it's 220 grit sandpaper for these smaller parts. The 220 grit sandpaper wasn't really knocking this back fast enough, so I swapped over to an 80 grit sandpaper. I'm literally just using old pieces of sandpaper that I've previously used with my power sander. I keep all of my old sandpaper until it's well and truly munted and falling apart, because you can always reuse it for just hand sanding. So last time I did this piece, I waxed the entire painted surface. So before I paint it again this time, I need to remove the wax. So I'm using mineral turpentine to clean off as much of it as possible. So I also wanted to clean all of the paint off the hinges, but I didn't have any paint stripper and I really couldn't be bothered taking the doors off, so I decided to scrape them. Seriously, just take the doors off the hinges next time. Alright, so the colour I'll be using on this piece is Millie's Boutique Mineral Paint in the colour Lonsdale Lawn. It really doesn't show on the camera how vibrant it is. It is absolutely stunning. I love green. Green is one of my favourite colours. I wonder if my head was just in the way in the light. It might have been. Does that look better? No, I don't know. Anyway. So as I apply the first coat, you'll probably notice that the coverage isn't all that crash hot. So what tends to happen with bright colours is they don't have a white base, they actually have a clear base. I could be wrong about this. Tanya, correct me if I'm wrong, please. But I'm pretty sure that's how paints work. So your softer colours and like your pastels and stuff like that will tend to have a white base, and your brights will have a clear base, which is how they allow them to be so bright. So as a general rule, you will not get as great a coverage from bright colours like this. I'm still kicking myself because I knew this before I started painting this piece, but I was in a rush and jumped the gun. What I should have done is prime it and put down a solid base of either like a grey primer. Like I could have tinted my primer, or I could have gone in with say baby sage or even woodlands or something like that. You can totally use other paints as a primer. So learn from my mistake and, you know, have fun trying to work out what I'm seeing. So I'm pretty sure I ended up doing 3 full coats all up and then a spot coat. So now I'm taking some Cup of Joe and just adding a small amount to what I've got left in my cup of the Lonsdale Lawn and mixing it together to make a slightly darker colour for some dry brushing. So just putting a little bit on and then brushing most of it off onto my rag. You literally cannot see what I'm putting on there. Like, I'm literally doing some very, very, very light dry brushing on this. Dry brushing is not my strong suit. Because I can't really see it going on really bold and strong, I'm not patient enough for this. I need to put more on, and then I end up putting too much on and having to, you know, clean it off. So now that the base is all painted, I'm just grabbing some sandpaper and going around my edges of my top to get off any paint that has gone over the top. So the reason I like to go along my edges first when I'm doing a stain like this is because I generally go over with my brush. So once I've done my edges, I go in with the sandpaper just like I did with the paint and clean off any brush marks that have flicked over from the edge. So now I'm ready to top coat the whole piece. I'm going to be keeping a 18mm round sleek brush handy, but I'm going to be rolling this entire piece, or at least attempting to. By the way, this trolley that I got to hold all my stuff while I'm working is great and holds one of these small roller trays perfectly. Okay, so this is the lock piece that I wanted to use on this cabinet. But I've got two problems. This side butts up too close to the little strip that's on the front of the door. So I have a slight plan for trying to deal with that. And the keyhole is actually too small. So what I'm going to try and do, and we'll see if this actually works, is I've got a piece of wood with a hole in it. I drilled the hole in it, it didn't come like that. And I'm placing the keyhole over the top of the hole, and I've got a nail punch. So this will either work or it won't work and I'll look ridiculous. I'm going to leave it as I up. It's going in, slick. Right, one more time. Whoop, whoop, whoop. There we go. It worked. Right, so I couldn't remember the name of this earlier, but it is called a, oh, I've forgotten it again already, a pedestal handle. So this is called a pedestal handle, if I can get the words out. I got this and the other handles from Restoration Online. My suggestion when it comes to lining these up is to place it roughly where you think it'll go. Get your key, put it in there and set it roughly. Use that to kind of line it up because you don't want to attach it and then find out later that your key hits against the side of it or something like that. Put it in and out a few times, make sure you've got good clearance and then go from there. Here is a quick shot of what it looked like before. And here she is now with a second complete makeover. Hopefully this one will sell a bit faster, or at all, I don't know. Either way, I'm really happy with it, and I'm so glad that what I pictured in my head turned out exactly how I wanted. Absolutely amazing colour. I just absolutely love it. Love it. So does everyone else apparently. But let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to check the description for links to all of the products I used. A lot of those will be affiliate links, which will get me a small commission. It doesn't cost you any extra at all. I do appreciate it if you do use the affiliate links, because it does help me continue to do what I do. Don't forget to subscribe and like and share and comment. Remember, tell me what you think I was singing. I hope you all had a laugh with me, because I was laughing with you, I hope. Anyway, thanks for watching.